Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So our September preview goes through 12 different types of Star Wars storytelling, as it usually does. So those 12 are movies, live action, animation, books, audiobooks, short stories, comics, virtual reality, video games, merchandise, live events, and streaming stuff. So let's, of course, dig in with, as we usually do, the movie situation, which is currently on hold because of the Writers Guild strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike, with no end in sight at this point. However, we are not at risk of compromising that May of 2026 date. We have until the end of June of 2024, roughly speaking, where we would need a script by in order to still be able to hit that date. So yeah, there's still time for the studios to make things right and get us back on track. On the live action front, the Ahsoka series is underway right now, and we are going to get 4 episodes of the series. That'll be episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7 during the month of September. And then no clue what's going on with other series in development right now. So Skeleton Crew was supposed to be in post-production. We don't know if they were able to complete their stuff or not. And The Acolyte finished filming in time before the Writers Guild strike began. So in theory, they could be in post-production as well, but it all depends on whether they have to do any pickups or any ADR recording of new dialogue or anything like that. Any sort of changes that they might make will be hampered by the strike situation. So right now we have no word about where they are in those productions, and hopefully we'll find out by the end of the year, basically. Right now, I think Disney and Lucasfilm have every reason to keep the focus on the one new series that they have going right now. So yeah, we're probably not going to hear anything about Skeleton Crew or The Acolyte until after the Ahsoka series has run its course. On the animation front, it's Tales of the Jedi Season 2 and Bad Batch Season 3 that are supposed to be in development, but we have no word about those as well. And again, probably not going to hear anything until closer to the end of the year about what the status of those series are. There's one other animated series that's been ongoing that we haven't talked about yet on the podcast, and that is Young Jedi Adventures, which is the series for younger audiences set in the High Republic. They are back with new episodes and have more episodes coming this year. So that's something that is still running. On the books front, well, it's kind of books and short stories. It's an anthology that's coming out in the month of September. It's Tales of Light and Life. This is the 10 story, actually I think it's 9, but the Barnes & Noble edition has an extra bonus story. There are 10 short stories in total from the various High Republic authors in this collection, and it is supposed to be bridging phases and resolving mysteries and offering tantalizing hints of what's to come in Phase 3 of the High Republic Storytelling Initiative. So that is coming out this coming Tuesday, September 5th, and an audiobook version of that is debuting as well on September 5th, so that takes care of the whole audiobook situation thing. There are also a couple of Young Jedi Adventures young reader things that are coming this month too. And then sticking with the short stories thing, well, we have Star Wars Insider Magazine issue 221 coming out in September, and that is going to feature another Return of the Jedi focused short story that is entirely separate and different and not part of the From a Certain Point of View anthology of short stories that came out last month. So yeah, now we're going to be at 42 short stories and counting. On the comics front, it's going to be a comparatively light month as far as these things go. So all the normal Marvel titles, Star Wars 38, Darth Vader 38, Bounty Hunters 38, Dr. Aphra 36, and Hyperspace Stories issue 9 from Dark Horse. Then we're also going to have issue 2 of the Dark Droids series and issue number 1 of the Dark Droids D Squad miniseries. We've got the 4th issue of the season 2 adaptation of The Mandalorian, and there's also going to be a manga dropping, which was published in Japan earlier this year, but it is a volume 1 adaptation from season 1 of The Mandalorian, which is very cool. And there's going to be a graphic novel adapting episodes 9 and 10 from season 7 of The Clone Wars, basically Ahsoka and Maul facing off. And they're also dropping the first issue of an adaptation of the Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries, the TV series, right? So there's going to be a comic book adaptation of it, and issue 1, covering episode 1, is also coming out in September. On the video game front, the thing that everybody's wondering about is Star Wars Hunters. When is it ever going to come out in the US? Well, maybe late this year, maybe in the first half of next year. We're still waiting for word. It has been soft launched in other parts of the world, and yeah, I mean, it's really hard to find any other information about it, but it seems like it may actually happen sometime in the next 6 months, but they've been saying that for a while. So, you know, it's one of those, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it kind of things. On the virtual reality side of things, there's nothing new to announce, although there was just a press release from ILM Immersive yesterday, actually, saying that there's a pricing change on Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition for the Star Wars PlayStation 2 virtual store. I think it's going down to $40, $39.99. So, hey, grab it if that's your thing and if you've got the right equipment for it. As far as anything else goes for it, it seems like, you know, that's what they're pushing right now and have been for a while. So I presume something new is in development. We just haven't heard anything about it yet and don't really have a timetable for it either at this point. On the streaming front, there is a new special getting added to Disney Plus on September 15th, and it is called Master and Apprentice. So you've seen, and we've actually talked about on the podcast, there are videos on the Star Wars YouTube channel that address the Master and Apprentice legacy within Star Wars. Well, it seems like what we've seen on the YouTube channel may be previews of whatever this longer situation is going to be that shows up on the Disney Plus app. So that's something to look forward to. Hopefully it is actually that. Hopefully they're not just, you know, sticking the 7-minute video up on Disney Plus and saying, hey, there you go. No, I'm hoping it's going to be more. There's supposed to be interviews with the cast and the filmmakers of the Ahsoka series. So yeah, something to look forward to about 2 weeks from now. On the live events front, if you are very lucky to be in Los Angeles and have tickets for this, tomorrow night on September 2nd at the Hollywood Bowl, they are doing a live-to-picture performance of the orchestral score for Return of the Jedi. So the Los Angeles Philharmonic plays all of the music from Return of the Jedi while they show it on the big screen. It is going to be a marvelous experience. I know people who are going to be there, and I'm very excited for them. I sadly will not, but yeah, if you have the opportunity to, you know, find a ticket and get to it, or if you're going to it, I hope you have a fantastic time. And finally, on the merchandise front, so a couple of things about that. One, there's a Shop Disney thing that they put on Disney Plus with the Ahsoka series saying, hey, you know, you get access to this exclusive shop because you have Disney Plus or whatever. And there's nothing there that tells us anything about storytelling in that regard, right? Because that's the stuff that we're looking for in the merchandising side of things. Hasbro Pulse did announce that they're releasing Black Series figures and Vintage Collection figures related to the Ahsoka series. And I went to look at the descriptions. There was one thing that kind of freaked me out for a little bit until I realized that it was probably a mistake. A lot of the descriptions are just boilerplate, basically saying the Ahsoka series follows former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano as she investigates an emerging threat to a vulnerable galaxy, which is kind of interesting in itself, talking about a vulnerable galaxy. But the Sabine Wren Black Series action figure, instead of it saying former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano in the description, it said former Jedi Knight Sabine Wren. And that threw me for a loop until I realized, no, I think it was just that one figure where they just, you know, copy pasted basically and made a little mistake there. The Vintage Collection, one of her says Ahsoka Tano, where the Black Series one said Sabine Wren, or vice versa. But anyway, so yeah, it's not saying that she was a Jedi Knight. Seems to just have been an error. Although, speaking of errors, I guess technically speaking, Ahsoka was never a Jedi Knight either. She was only a Padawan. So yeah, you know, play with that if you want. And there are two other things that I'll flag. One of them was there's a Grand Admiral Thrawn figure, and it definitely doesn't look like it's based on animation. It looks like it's based on live action, but the description of it is written from a Star Wars Rebels perspective. And yet, it might be worth just, you know, flagging the description. It says, Grand Admiral Thrawn, a male Chiss tasked with dismantling the rebellion on Lothal, was known for his brilliant strategic mind and ruthlessness. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily tell us anything new. Might be something to just, you know, kind of keep in your brain though. And then the last thing about merchandise is that they are releasing an Ezra Bridger figure with the Paren Lothal on it, and the costume that the figure wears looks very much like what we saw in Star Wars Rebels, but the speaking of animation versus live action, it definitely looks like a live action Ezra, but by that token, it also looks like an older Ezra too. And so I'm wondering if they've kind of given away the fact that we might see Ezra on Lothal by the end of this series. But I will have a picture of that figure as the title card of this episode. So you'll see it on our website at sw7x7.com, and you'll also see it on YouTube as the thumbnail for this episode. So if you check that out and you think, hey, yeah, that does look like older adult Ezra Bridger, who would be, 28 years old at the time of the Ahsoka series, then let me know what you think, or let me know if you just think that it's an attempt to create a live action version of a 19-ish year old Ezra Bridger. And that right there is going to do it for everything that we know about coming to Star Wars storytelling for the month of September of 2023. And that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.